Welcome to X-Files Podcast, a podcast about breakups, broken hearts, and moving on. I'm Janice Formicella, a breakup coach passionate about supporting others to heal from their breakups, overcome loneliness, love being single, and see the end of a relationship as the beginning of a magical new chapter in life. I am here each week to share with you the tools that I have learned through my own painful breakups, through hitting rock bottom more than once, and through working with people all around the world to heal their broken hearts. If you are looking for hope and strength to move on from your breakup and resources to enjoy your new single life, you are in the right place, and I've got your back. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of X-Files. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that Jackie is here. This has just been such a special few weeks for me to bring on new co-hosts and to hear from everybody about how excited you are that I'm continuing the show. And so I appreciate everybody who's tuning in and continuing on the X-Files journey. And part of that journey is that between now and the end of the year, at least, I don't know what's going to happen after that, I'm bringing in some very special guest co-hosts, people from my community who I've worked with before or have a good vibe with or just otherwise think are cool and think my audience would like. And I have my second one on today, my friend Jackie. Hello.
Hey, Janice. Thank you so much for having me on the X-Files. We did a podcast on my podcast earlier, and that's how we all met with all of our mutual friends and work people and all of that stuff. And you're such a darling. So I'm happy to be here to help.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this particular episode and talking about self-forgiveness with you specifically because of your background in counseling. And I'm excited to have you on for future episodes. Before we get into it, because this is your first time appearing, what would you like my audience, or our audience rather, to know about you?
Sure. So I am a mental health coach and relationship coach. So I'm actually in school to become a licensed marriage and family therapist right now. So I do a lot of coaching with people on their mental health as well as their relationship health. And I am also the podcast host of That Girl, the podcast, which has been up for a good year and a half now, and it's doing well. I bring on inspiring guests to talk about inspiring things. We have an episode coming out later this year that is the two of us. It's very inspiring of your personal journey, as well as another one on dating, actually, that is scheduled. And yeah, I bring on inspiring people to talk about inspiring things, focusing on self-development, relationships, even spirituality at times, to help people just become the best versions of themselves. So that's a good nugget about me.
Yep. Everybody go check out That Girl podcast. You have really cool guests on. It's really impressive, the people that have appeared. So everyone go check that out. And with that, we are going to jump into self-forgiveness. I know from personal experience, both forgiving myself for things and working with a lot of people who have various feelings about what happened in their last relationship, that self-forgiveness can be a real challenge after a breakup. So I thought it would be a great topic to have Jackie on for, given your background in counseling and family therapy. So let's dive into it. First of all, what is your definition of self-forgiveness, Jackie? And is there anything that maybe you wanted to share from your own experience about it?
Oh God, there's so much.
I know I have a couple things as well.
It's just ongoing forgiveness. I think we'll talk about this later, but, it's really just about, knowing that we're just human and that we're going to make mistakes and we're going to use the information that we have in the moment we have it and try to make the right choices. And sometimes we just don't, but it's not always your fault all the time. Sometimes you think you're doing the right thing, and then it does sometimes not work out or blows up in your face. But it's about forgiving yourself for just being human and also knowing that this is how we learn. We're always about growing and evolving and becoming smarter, better humans. And in order to do that, we need to fail. So we will always need to forgive ourselves.
Yeah, that's a good point. I suppose, especially after a breakup, you would never be able to be in a more positive relationship in the future if you didn't learn, from mistakes. And that might be things we're going to talk about, ignoring red flags, things that you wish you would have done differently. But where is really the room for growth if you can't say that you have room for growth? And that comes with making
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's very strong. It takes a lot of courage to admit I need to forgive myself for the mistakes that I've made. That's a huge part of moving forward.
Yes, I agree. And I think that a lot of people come to me because they've struggled to put their breakup behind them for some time. And that often involves staying somewhat connected to an ex or doing things that, right, felt right and seemed right at the time, but now they're kind of in a cycle that they want to get out of. And I just want everyone to know this is definitely part of my story. I, stayed connected with one of my exes in Australia for a very short time after we broke up. And this is Laundry Boy, who longtime listeners of the show are familiar with. And
Who's Laundry Boy? Would give me the snapshot of Laundry Boy because I don't
yes,
know.
certainly. So it was before I moved back to the States. I was from Australia. It was pretty much the last serious relationship I had, and definitely, someone who I was falling in love with, or definitely had fallen in love with. And so part of my tips for getting past bad breakups is always keep in mind the reasons why it had to end and the reasons why it ended. And it helps to stop idealizing the relationship if you can think about the things about in the relationship that you didn't like. And one of
Mhm.
the things on my list for this guy is he had really weird habits around doing his laundry, including not doing it very often. He would rewear the same t-shirt like days in a row, which I hated.
Ew.
Um, use dirty towels, just generally. And it was weird, and it really
Oh.
drove me nuts. And we wouldn't argue about it. We would have discussions about it, though, for sure. And so, yeah, this was something that went on my list. And so he's always been Laundry Boy in the podcast.
Oh my God. So he had a laundry list of laundry issues.
Yes. Yeah, multiple. I mean, one day I spent the night at his house and he handed me a towel. And it was a towel that I knew had been hanging up and that other people had been using.
Ew.
I asked for a clean towel. He's like, "Why? It's dry."
Oh my God. Ew. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Personal hygiene is a really
Yes.
big thing for me.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have that down, you're just not adulting at all. Like, you're missing, that's a big part of adulting.
Agreed.
Gross. Oh,
Agreed.
thank God he lived afar.
Yes. Well, we always like to use code names on the show. Just, I mean, partially because it's funny. But part of the reason we broke up is because I was personally going through a very stressful time in my life, one of the most stressful. And that was, on the brink of losing my visa in Australia after years of trying so hard to get it, being in a very like a toxic work situation, which like full on, workplace bullying and all that. And he knew everybody that was kind of involved with everything and friendships. And there was all this entanglement. And there was just like no way it was going to work out with my stress and mental health and just all of his, him trying to manage friendships and me and everything. So it did fall apart.
Mm.
But one day we started texting and he came over, we hooked up. And then, I mean, and the next day he was just a total jerk to me.
Ugh.
And it took me for about a week after I was feeling so depressed that I had done that and that I had allowed that to happen because I had allowed it even he probably
Right.
manipulated the situation a bit, but it took me a while to forgive myself. And we're going to talk about this later, but it helps to look back on why you did the things that you did in order to not do them in the future. And this
Yeah.
was definitely an example of that for me. And looking back, I have a lot of sympathy for that woman who went through that and just knowing all the stress that I was under and wanting to put a band-aid on it even temporarily. And
Yes.
I know a lot of people can probably relate to stories like that about people who you're trying to separate from or know that you should. So
Right.
I always want people to know I've been there and I've done it too.
Well, it sounds like if I could just sort of analyze the situation real quick, it just sounds like there was something in him that you were feeling very familiarized to,
Mhm.
and he was triggering things that felt good, and the sparks were flying, but it wasn't maybe like the good things you were remembering, like because we when we meet someone we have sparks, it's because we're subconsciously remembering something from our childhood, our parents, our upbringing, and sometimes that can be good, sometimes it can be bad. And it sounds like the reason, most people hang on to people who are not good for us is because all we're trying to do is just fix the stuff from our childhood that we haven't been able to fix yet. And we're like, no, no, don't leave me. I really want to fix this. Even if we're not cognizant of it, we want to win that fight we've been fighting since childhood through this person or multiple people like that. And we think, well, if I can fix this, win this person, get them to love me, get me the attention that I need that I didn't have or whatever it is, I'll be healed.
Mhm.
And that's really what comes in with self-forgiveness, is that we have to be like, listen, this is a really, really, really old story that I'm working through another person with.
Yeah.
They're not even aware of it.
Mhm.
And I've got to just forgive myself for knowing this is like inner child work I need to do, right? It's not
That's a
about,
good point. The
you
inner
know,
child work.
it's always inner child work,
Mhm.
man. Even if you had a good childhood, you have inner child work.
I wouldn't describe mine as such. But see, this is one reason I wanted Jackie as one of my co-hosts. And I immediately can pinpoint what you're talking about. I don't feel like I have had protective males in my life. I'm the oldest in my family. I didn't have the big brother dynamic that my sisters had or that lots of people I know had because of the religion I grew up in. I really didn't even feel that from my own father for
Interesting.
really not even fault of his own. And because of the situation I was in and because of his role in, the community, I felt I would really like to have someone step up for me and protect me and stand up for me. And
Yeah.
I mean, at the point, the relationship had dissolved to the point where, I mean, there's no reason why I would think
Yeah.
he was going to play that role anymore. But yeah, in the moment, for sure, that's what I was going
Yeah.
for.
It's crazy. I mean, it's just laundry boy. He is who he is. And I'm sure he's still exactly the same.
I wouldn't know because I'm very strict about my no contact rule, but
Good, good. I am too. I will very rarely, there's like one or two people I'm like, I'm just gonna check up on you once a year just to see. And for some, with the one person, there's only one person that I do this with, and I hate that I'm even admitting this, but
people
it
need
was
to
like a
know.
yeah, like it was like a karmic relationship in my 20s that I was
Mm-hmm.
like, no, this is my future husband. I know it is. And I'm very like into, past lives and karma and all that. So I really do feel that like my soul just recognized him, and I was like, but why aren't we together?
Mm-hmm.
And looking back, of course, I've grown up. It's been a very long time. I know why we're not together, but yeah, once in a blue moon, I'll check up on him, and it doesn't make me actually feel bad, as it just I feel happy for him
Mm-hmm. Sure.
legitimately. I'm like
Okay.
happy for him.
Well, yeah,
So,
and I think those exes where you can feel that, and those exes where you cannot or you choose
oh yeah.
not to feel that. And for me, that would start. I wouldn't say this is necessarily someone I
quote wish the best for, but it's
No,
also
no.
not something I think of a lot about. So
Yeah.
let's talk about and I'm always out here to help people overcome these things. So why are some other reasons why you might feel angry, resentful, or disappointed with yourself after a breakup? I think I have pinpointed 3 big reasons. And the first one being I hear this a lot. We blame ourselves for not recognizing red flags or for ignoring red flags. So if this is what you are going through right now, I want you to know when we're dating someone and when we're in the initial days of a courtship, people typically put their best foot forward. And so a red flag might not appear for a long time, or you could have really crazy chemistry with someone, or just be excited about the relationship. And it's kind of natural and common. When we like someone, we only want to see the best in them, and they're only showing us their best, or at least trying very hard to. So I know for myself and other people I know, sometimes what we consider to be a huge red flag, why didn't we notice this before? And that's because a red flag can appear like a personality quirk, like that's kind of funny. Maybe we even say it's cute. It can appear as like maybe a minor defect. We all have them, right?
Oh, yeah.
Someone being nervous. I've used that before. When I've seen a red flag, so if someone was pursuing me and they were doing something I didn't like, I would say to myself, oh, they're just nervous. Yeah. They're just excited about dating me. Or other small things in relationships. So I just want everyone to know it's normal and it's common. And while it's good to recognize it, to give yourself some grace.
Absolutely. Well, the nervousness thing is a big thing for me,
Okay.
whether I'm nervous or they're nervous. And I'll give you both sides of that, because I certainly spent a lot of my adult time dating being very nervous on dates. And I was like, I'm just nervous,
Okay.
I just really wanted approval. I really wanted them to like me. I just really wanted it to work, right? Again, that's a trauma response. But when I started to realize, how come I'm only nervous on certain dates, and then with other people, I feel totally fine. My nervous system is calm. I feel comfortable. What is that? Obviously, I'm older and wiser, and I know what that is. But that is huge, whether you're feeling uber nervous or they're feeling nervous. When you're nervous, you're actually getting triggered subconsciously, and your body is literally giving you a warning of, we don't feel good. Something is wrong here. We are sensing something. You may not even know what it is that you're sensing. It could be going fine, but you're super nervous. There is just something wrong. And I swear, I would bet money on this. Like, if this well, actually, it did just happen to me. I had a virtual date with someone earlier this week, or later last week. And there were quirks, and I wasn't nervous, but he was. And there were weird little quirks happening. And I was like, check, 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 because now I'm just hyper aware of everything. And I'm like, something is definitely off here. And when I got off the virtual date, by the way, he didn't even ask me if I wanted to go out with him. He just planned a date. Like, it was
how
weird.
so?
He was like, okay, so what are you doing this weekend? And I was like, I have to look at my calendar. I'm not really sure. He's like, okay, well, how about let's do Monday?
I see. He already knew that it was going to lead, or that he thought it was going to lead to a second date.
And he's like, why don't we do Italian food? I love Italian food, which is weird to be like, we're doing Italian food. And then he's like, why don't we go to this place and let's do 2:00 in the afternoon for lunch?
Oh,
and also we'll wear this. He literally told me what to wear. He wanted us to wear casual clothes. He's like, jeans and a t-shirt, just, I was like,
I have never heard tell your date what to wear as a tip.
And then he told me not to order steak, not because And also at 2:00 in the afternoon, who's ordering steak? Not because, it's expensive. He's like, no, I mean, I can afford it. It's just like,
Oh.
if you order steak now, like, will you always expect steak every time? And I was like, who are you talking to? I've
What?
never said anything about any of this. Like,
That's so
I don't care.
demeaning.
It was very controlling. So I get off the little virtual date and I'm just like, this is weird.
Yikes.
I don't even need to know everything that's going on here because everything in me is like, no, 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 no. So the next day I send him a really polite text and I'm like, hey, it was lovely getting to know you, but my gut is telling me we're not a romantic match. But I
Good job.
know that, right? I like to have real closure for people, even if it's just a one-time thing.
Mm.
And I'm like, I know your perfect girl is coming for you and like wishing you all the best in your dating adventure.
That's great. Everybody, rewind that and write that down. That's a fantastic way. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I try really hard to not be a jerk. I try to be very understanding because we're all trying to find someone and like, you don't need to be mean. You don't need to ghost. You can be upfront and be like, boom, done, straight to the point.
Yep.
This guy attacks me. He's
I thought that might be coming.
Immediately attacks me. He's like, no problem. It's fine. I'm not even sad about it anyway. And I'm like, wow, okay, I guess you are.
Yeah, that's
and he's
necessary.
Like, right. And he says, it doesn't even matter because you don't even know my first name. You had to put the first initial of my name in this text, which is a huge red flag. And I was like, first of all, I know your first name because it showed up on the Zoom. Secondly, when we met on Hinge, you only put the first letter of your first name. So I thought it was a nickname. And I was very polite. I was like, no, I was just trying to be polite to call you the name that you prefer. I was like,
but why is he telling you his red flags towards you when you've already said you don't even want to go out?
Because,
it's so weird. It's just the whole thing is so weird.
Tacky. So anyway, my whole point is that I noticed the quirks and it's so easy to like totally tell yourself, no, they're nervous. No, they're fine. I'm overthinking. I'm overreacting. And what we're doing is we're literally gaslighting our own selves to make it okay to date someone. Our mind and body is literally saying, no, that's not for you. That's not, go away, walk away from that weird person.
Yeah.
And I just happened to shut it down before he caught on because that's where my spidey senses are now. But like, if we can do that and not talk ourselves out of these weird dates, weird conversations in the very, very, very beginning where we see these little pink weird flags, you will save yourself so much time. And I wish that I had done that in other bigger relationships where I was like, no, this is not right. This is not right. But I am going to make it work.
And what do you think made you want to make it work?
Because, well, the one you and I have talked about this, but my last serious relationship, I was at that age. Everyone's getting married. This man wanted to marry me. I was like, he's got a great job. He's super handsome. Like, I mean, shit, we should probably do this, even though I'm just scared. I'm just scared.
Right.
No.
Yes.
I need to choose someone different. No.
Yeah. Maybe you're trying to convince yourself that you're lucky for this great guy and lucky for the great opportunity. Yes.
Yep.
And this is, I think the point that we're both trying to make is if you're feeling disappointed with yourself for ignoring these things, that's okay. But don't let the opportunity to learn from it pass you by. So if you are, a lot of people talk a lot about red flags. I know because I'm in this space and red flags comes up all the time. And if this is what you're thinking to yourself right now about your breakup, write things down, write down what the red flags were and what maybe you would have done differently. And not only what you saw in the relationship, but what you want for yourself in future relationships. So, use this as a sign that there's potential for a lot of learning. And I really do like people to get super specific and do actually write things down. I think it's really easy to say, I quote, ignored red flags without really thinking about what that looked like and really thinking about what you might do in the future as far as setting boundaries or, taking things slow or thinking ahead of time about what you want. So if you're feeling that way, you know what? Be thankful.
Yes, be thankful. Your body is trying to talk to you. Please listen to it.
Exactly. So another reason you might be feeling angry or disappointed with yourself after a breakup is, this is a good one, feeling that you caused the breakup. I know this is so tough. And it's also an opportunity to learn about yourself. We're talking, opportunities for self-compassion and for moving through things in the future. If you can forgive yourself for this, regardless of how convinced you are that you can make it right, or regardless of how upset you are with yourself, if you can use this as an opportunity to forgive and move past and learn, you'll have a foundation for so many other things in your life, like work, family members, friends.
Right.
So,
do you have any tips for accepting and moving on from these mistakes?
Well, I think also with the red flags is to get really clear as far as what you think the story of the breakup is / was. And even if that means that you write down exactly what you believe that you did that led to it. And then what I always want to tell people is, instead of dwelling on and on about what you wish you would have done differently, which includes going back to your ex and saying, oh, I've listened to this podcast or I've read this book, and now I know, what I need to do different. And now I know what I should have done, is to try your best to leave the past in the past and reframe it. So instead of every time it comes up saying what I wish I would have done, say what I will do differently in the future is. And it's much more empowering and positive than dwelling on the past.
I actually did that once with my second major long-term relationship. We broke up. I was devastated, but I had this kind of, I swear to God, it was like a spiritual awakening. I was like, oh my God, I get it. I get what I did. It was like click, 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 click. And I'm like, can you meet me for lunch? It's probably been like a month or something, right?
Oh my God, I love this.
Will you meet me for lunch? And this is so sad, guys. This is when I was like 25. I was just a wee baby in the dating world. I loved this guy, but I also wanted to break up. It wasn't like I was happy. I loved him, but I wasn't happy. But I couldn't let go, right? I just couldn't. My ego was like, no, no, no. So I'm like, meet me for lunch. And I had cried so much over him that my eyes actually had become so sensitive. I could only wear glasses. I had developed.
You mean sunglasses or instead of contacts?
Like I had contacts.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant.
Yeah, no, only sunglasses. Was so puffy. No, but I had cried so much with contacts in that month that I got like a legion on my eye and I couldn't wear contacts. So I had been wearing glasses and I hadn't smiled in so long that when I saw him and I smiled with my glasses on, it was like a new feeling. Like that's how depressed and sad I was. Here I am. I'm like, I really get it. I totally understand what I did wrong. I really understand I'm different. I am different. And it was true. I had changed. I really had. But he was so sweet. And he's like, it's just too late.
Oh, wow.
Just too late. And that's something we have to remember too, when we do get what the lessons, be grateful. So many people just don't ever get it. They're like, I don't know. I was perfect. I don't know why they wouldn't want to be with me. But
some people, yes.
Some people. The people that are listening to this program, they're getting it. But he was like, I'm so sorry. Like it's done. We actually have remained friends forever since because we had a good friendship, but it broke my heart. And it was a moment of it doesn't matter if you change, you get the lessons, that person may be done. So if you're thinking oh, I want to go back to my ex and show them I'm changed, we can make this work now. It might not be that easy. It may just be time to absolutely move on and use that
for both of you.
for a new relationship. Pick a
Mhm.
better partner, start fresh.
Yeah, with someone you have a fresh foundation with and a healthier foundation with.
Yeah.
Because even if you do learn all these things about yourself, you still don't have the foundation. The foundation that you have is when you didn't know all these things about yourself. And so typically it is better to, go on your own journey and let them go on theirs.
Absolutely. I mean, another reason you're feeling angry with yourself after a breakup is you're wishing things may have wanted to end sooner, which is how I felt. Even though I wanted I wanted to cling on to it before we broke up. So I was in the music industry forever and ever, and he was a
I love
touring
that.
musician. And so he was gone for like a month or two, which was really normal in our relationship. And I remember this was also so sad, but I was young. I made a calendar and I like decorated it and like drew pictures on it, which I am not a drawer. That is not my jam, but that's how excited I was for him to leave. And I was like, I really need to break up with him. Like, but I
Wait,
don't know
okay, hold on. I
how.
don't quite understand this. You decorated a calendar because what was the point of decorating the calendar?
Because it was the time I was going to have by myself away
Oh
from
my
him.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Maybe maybe
Yeah.
not the
I
best
wanted the
sign.
breakup too. I did, but I couldn't let go.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Wow, that's
crazy.
powerful.
It's crazy. Yeah. We've
Hmm.
got to listen to ourselves. And mind you, I was young. I'm still working out a lot of stuff. But like, yeah, listen to yourself. Even
Hmm.
when you miss that person terribly. And I think we miss the comfort to the routine, the predictability, even if it's bad predictability, it's like it's the devil we know. That can be really hard to let go of.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
absolutely. And the story that I was going to share as far as being angry with yourself because you didn't end things sooner is what I went through leaving a domestic violence situation. And, I went back, I think 4 times. And when I finally left for the last time, I did have lots of moments of telling myself that I would have never gone through that had I left sooner and stayed gone. And you know what? To be honest, even people around me said that, which was a
Which
shame.
isn't helping.
And no, I mean, victim blaming is a really real thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, what helped me was after a month or so, I started learning more about the cycle of abuse and how one ends up in domestic violence and how
Mhm.
one stays caught up in it. And I was able to finally forgive myself, but I really get it. We
Yeah.
can think that maybe we wasted time staying with someone who wasn't healthy. And
Right.
for anyone going through this, just know that too is normal and natural. And we do want to be with things that are familiar. And, when we think or when we do love someone, of course you want to keep trying. So you can still forgive yourself, and hopefully that will help you is knowing that you're not alone. I
You're
did it. And
totally
the
not.
funny thing is, well, not funny, but I was a women's studies major and had done studies on domestic violence and had even worked in a shelter and still got caught up in it. And
Mhm.
so I want everyone to know it's, not your fault. These cycles are really
Yeah.
easy to get caught up in.
No one is immune to manipulation. Even if you get it, just like you explained, we can all be very gullible if it's done in a way that works for us, you
Mhm.
know?
Oh yeah.
I've
Oh
been
yeah.
in a yeah, I was in a very abusive relationship as well. Not physically, but very mentally. And it was really hard to forgive. That's, I think, of all the relationships, the one that I am like, wow, how did I waste so much time? Like you said, even though the whole time I was trying to get out of it. Why did I allow that to happen? I'm smarter than this.
Yeah.
I literally know I'm smarter than this. And yet, what's happening with abusive situations, and for those of you listening who have experienced that, are in it, is that you're not just working on the relationship with the abuser. Again, you are working on the inner child relationship with yourself that
Mm.
is still confused. You're not even sure why you're making decisions that you're making, but it is coming from a learned place from the past that you have not worked out yet. And that's why you stay. You keep it's whether it's a highly abusive situation or it's just a yucky kind of situation, we are always trying to work our shit out in different relationships until we find one that we like feel really comfortable in. And you're not really fighting. You're not really arguing. You're just kind of like existing together in this really peaceful way. And guys, those relationships do exist. I have seen them. I know them. They are out there. They are attainable. It's not always going to be
right. It's not always
toxic.
work. It's work,
not
but
always
not hard, painful work. And I like what you brought up about working things through and staying in the cycle and doing things even though you don't know why, because something came to me in the shower last night.
Always.
And that is why people, yes, always, why people struggling with breakups might stay in the cycle of self-blame and self-resentment, as, you know, like what purpose does that serve for people?
Mm-hmm.
And I think for some people, I wanted to know what you think about this. I guess two things came to me. First of all, for me, I stayed blaming myself because I didn't want to be on my own. And I knew nothing about being self-resilient or self-reliant, and convincing myself that I needed to stay in it was a good way to avoid eventually, you know, doing that, which was even more scary for me in some ways than staying in a violent relationship.
Yeah.
And then something I've seen in my practice is people really don't want to accept that it's over and move away from the relationship. And so somehow staying stuck in this self-blame cycle allows you to stay connected to the person in a way.
Yes. Oh, that is so powerful. And we don't, I don't hear that talked about a lot, but that is a very powerful part of it, is that you are staying stuck in it because you just need, that's the comfort zone that your brain and heart needs to be in still. It's still trying to work it out. It's still trying to figure it out. It's still allowing that to survive. That relationship I mentioned earlier with the calendar and all of it, I remember feeling like, again, I love this precious 20-something-year-old version of me, because she was such a good girl and she's trying so hard. And I really like send lots of love to that version of myself. I mean, she's not here anymore, but like, I feel like an older sister or a mom, almost like, oh, honey. But I used to feel like there was like a limb attached to me that had died. It shriveled up into this gross dead limb. And that was my relationship. But I didn't want to let it go because it was my limb. It was literally like an arm that had shriveled up. And I was like, you need to literally just snap that off. It's just ready to snap off. That's how dead it is. And I just couldn't. I'm like, but I don't want to let go of my arm. And that's how it felt to stay in that cycle of holding on in that really weird mental way that we do. It's so strange.
I know for ages, I also thought that I was solely responsible for making my marriage work. And I think really, I just didn't know who I was without being married, because, you know, people had looked up to us for so long as, you know, an example of a cool couple.
Yeah.
But so I get it. And so anyone listening, you know, if you're really struggling to put your breakup behind you and struggling with beating yourself up, you know, maybe think about how that's serving you and what it is that you're avoiding, or the purpose. But let's move on to self-compassion and, you know, how you can learn from this. And, you know, I think that blaming and shaming, like I said, serves a purpose, and there's things that we can learn from it, but it also does lead to so much misery and so much negative outcomes. So let's talk about things to remember if you're stuck in this cycle after a breakup.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone can agree, recognizing what you did wrong is just an opportunity. I mean, it gives us the chance to improve and grow, obviously, and it provides us data for, you know, what we want to make tweaks to in our lives and where we want to focus on actually working on ourselves and that journey, and why that's so important after a breakup. I mean, I don't know. I love working on myself during a relationship, after, all the time. So, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of different stories that could come up, but I mean, along those same lines, like, you can accept and take ownership over your mistakes without dwelling on them and letting them eat you alive, you know?
And I did almost get into this cycle with Laundry Boy. And the reason why he comes up so often is because I had a series of kind of whirlwind romances,
That's the
and
right. Yep.
and getting into romances and relationships really quickly. And which I did with him for sure. And just feeling really caught up in the romance and the passion. And that was definitely the case with him, and just moving so effing fast.
Yeah.
And then realizing, even in the initial months, that I was just like, oh my God, what have I done? There's, like, I'm unhappy and things are getting really weird. And I kept doing it over and over again. And then also I had relationships with some men over there where that dynamic didn't exist, and where it was hard for me to stay interested, even though we had really great connection, one guy in particular. Anyway, so after Laundry Boy, I just decided, okay, you've got to stop dating and stop getting into relationships and be single for a while, because there's something off about your selection process. And
Yeah.
so instead of beating myself up about it, I did what listeners will be familiar with. And that is, I was single for 4 years, and it was fun and great. And I learned a lot. So yeah, instead of letting it just make me self-destruct and continue on in cycles of unhealthy relationships, I did grow and learn from it.
Yeah.
But I think it did take, though, a little bit of this self-blame stage for me to realize you've got to make a change. So there is an opportunity there.
No, I mean, that's how it begins. We can't always be right about everything. We just can't. Like, usually we're wrong about a lot of stuff until we realize, oh, I get why I'm wrong now.
Yeah. So and just keep on looking, though, for how to make something positive out of it. Because I've seen people cycle into very, serious and long periods of depression because of not being able to see where the opportunity is. So I wanted to talk about this for just a minute. What do you think about involving, your ex? I know we talked about this just a little bit, but do you think that there's ever a reason to reach out to your ex, to either to apologize or connect, or use them as like maybe a catalyst for your self-forgiveness journey?
Okay. So, a lot of, like programs like AA, like there is a step where you go and apologize to people. And I actually think that that's a really nice way to forgive yourself and also help show that person, look, I'm sorry for what I've done. Or if like if you needed to apologize, like you look back and you're like, wow, I really kind of fucked that up. So I'm gonna just say I'm sorry. But I'm okay with closure in the very, very, very beginning, very beginning. But if it's been like months now, I would rather tell someone to write a letter and not send it.
Yes.
Because it's really about you. It has nothing to do with them at this point. If it has been months or even years, guys, this has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with you and the fantasy and role that they live on in your brain with. This isn't even, they could be very different now. They could be totally different lives. And you're just remembering the version that you're still working on.
Yep.
So I feel like writing a letter to them, never sending it, ever, is really helpful. And what's also helpful is you can read that letter months down the line, years down the line. It helps the healing process. You can see where you were at when you wrote it, and maybe you've evolved some more. Maybe you understand some more now. Like, it's a really great way to look back and forth and keep the healing process going. But otherwise, unless you're going, even if it comes from a nice place, like my ex from my 20s, right? And not the one that we stayed in touch, but the other one, I would totally wish him well, but like, he doesn't need to hear from me. Like, what is that going to
Agreed.
You know, like nothing's going to happen. And it just looks weird on your part. Even if it's
Yes, everyone, listen to that. It does.
You look weird. You look really creepy. Even if you're not creepy and you genuinely just wish them the best, which is how I feel. And I'm a non-creepy person, but you look creepy. So don't do it. Just don't do it. Write the letter.
Yes. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. I absolutely love it. I think, this self-realization that you've come to is for you and it's not for them. And it's for you in your future relationships. And again, it's not for your past relationship. I think if you are in this stage, as far as self-forgiveness goes, and you need to make financial repayments, sign divorce papers, return their items or other, actual practical matters, separating bills and whatnot, that I think is appropriate. I think you can do these things with minimal contact, but being in touch as an excuse just to connect for just the sake of connecting, I think, this is an opportunity. Oh my God, that's the word of this episode. I just realized opportunity. So if you're playing the X-Files drinking game, I guess that would be the word for this episode. My point being, as far as healing from a breakup goes, this is your chance to do things just for you. And, to realize that the decisions that you're making are just for you and not for your partner or your relationship. You could be on the verge of opening up like so many possibilities for healing and for finally starting the new chapter of your life. So I'd also encourage people to, probably leave the part where you need to let them know what a jerk you were or how much better things could be if you got back together. I'd say leave that out as well.
Agree.
So let's talk about being human and making mistakes. I'm looking forward to hearing what you think about this article I found. This was kind of a mind-blowing thing for me as far as why people hold on to self-resentment. So in the Psychology Today article, Self-Blame, the Ultimate Emotional Abuse, that's a bold statement. Michael J. Formica, look at his last name and how it's so similar to mine.
It really is. You might be strangely related.
Michael J. Formica, or maybe Formica, says, okay, when either we or the world we create around us does not meet this illusory ideal, we are often apt to take on fault and responsibility that is not ours to own. The failure to recognize the balance of responsibility in any given situation leads us into the trap of misassigning that responsibility, which can quickly devolve into self-blame. This need to be right to avoid blame or responsibility for things potentially getting derailed can be paralyzing. It can stop us from beginning new projects or conversely, keeping us stuck in our sometimes all too comfortable comfort zone, preventing us not only from moving forward, but in some cases from actually evolving. So I really liked that. And, just remembering that we all make mistakes. And I thought it was really interesting that it's our need to be right that so often can lead to self-resentment when things just generally don't go our way in life. And instead of, just accepting that things don't work out or that we make mistakes or that two people just aren't meant to be together, instead of accepting that, we get really stuck in the fact that we were wrong. And so self-blaming sometimes feels better or more natural.
Yes, it's so interesting. It feels kind of like a very strong pendulum. It's like either you're like, no, they were all wrong and I was right about everything. Or some people, definitely more like empathic people, will take on the role of, oh my gosh, I must have done everything wrong. It was all my fault. And it can be tons of self-blame. I am very guilty of doing that in the past where I always took on the blame. Mainly because I felt that it was easier and faster to take responsibility. I almost wanted to be wrong. So I could be like, look, we can fix it because I'm wrong and I can fix it for us.
Mhm.
And so that was much easier for me. But a lot of the time, don't get me wrong, a lot of the time I was wrong and I was like, cool, I'm going to take responsibility. But for the times that I was right, but being blamed and told I was wrong, that was incredibly confusing. And you feel it in your body when something doesn't feel right in any capacity. If you're just confused, most likely you're having conflicting information. So if someone's telling you you're wrong, but you're like, I actually don't think I am,
Oh,
in
totally.
a legitimate way,
Yeah.
you need to really pay attention to
Mhm.
that. That's just manipulation there. But yeah, no, I used to want to take responsibility for everything and just be like, no, 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 I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll fix it. I'll fix it. And now it's not really either one. It's more just a conversation of, when you're with the right
Yes.
people and you're in the right relationship, it is a conversation. And also, many very smart therapists will say this: there are many versions of right. It doesn't have to be right or wrong or black or white. It can be multiple versions of how can we make this right? And that's kind of where we get into the compromise of like, okay, well, let's just like give an example of, like we're trying to figure out how, oh God, this is a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Um, if you're trying to figure out like maybe where to vacation and you're like, I really want to go to the country. And he's like, I really want to go to the beach. Like both of you are right to want to go to these places, right? It's more of like one place isn't better than the other. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say is like, there are multiple versions of right. It's just a matter of the discussion of what's happened there. Sometimes it really is black and white.
Sometimes, yeah, but you're making a really good point that I probably could have or should have emphasized. And that's even if you're able to recognize what you quote unquote did wrong or how you quote unquote caused the relationship, it is really important to remember that relationships end because they aren't working, and they aren't working because of things on both sides.
Yes.
And just remember, it's great to see what you might want to improve in the future, but it's not one person or one thing that leads to a breakup or to a relationship unraveling, but many factors.
Right.
So this has been so good so far. I love having you as a host, and I hope that everyone can take a kind of look at this a little more objectively. But to help everybody use what we've already explain and what we've already shared, I thought we might talk about ways to forgive yourself using the 4 R's of self-forgiveness. Were you previously familiar with this?
No, I didn't realize
Just
there was like
curious.
yeah. I mean, I know of all these steps, but I didn't know that there was like an actual theory.
I love things that are organized in this way.
Yeah.
So, in the paper, A Therapeutic Model of Self-Forgiveness with Intervention Strategies for Counselors, Nathaniel G. Wade and Marilyn G. Cornish developed a theory that is now widely used by counselors in the self-development space, and that is the 4 R's of self-forgiveness. And those are responsibility, remorse, restoration, and renewal. So let's kind of go through each. We will both give tips on how to move through each. And I also wanted to say, which I'll put in the show notes, I am pulling some information from the meaning and significance of each stage from the Very Well Mind post, Taking the Steps to Forgive Yourself.
Awesome. Well, let's first start with responsibility, which we have absolutely done a very good job covering today.
Yeah.
I think we've really nailed this one. But Very Well Mind says forgiving yourself is about more than just putting the past behind you and moving on. It's about accepting what has happened and showing compassion to yourself. And that compassion is huge. I think that's once we take responsibility, we have to give ourselves the compassion of good for you for taking that big step and accepting and taking responsibility, but also compassion of, we were using the information we had at the time, or maybe we knew better, but we did the easier thing, which turned out to be the wrong thing. And to have compassion for that mistake,
Yeah.
I mean, like
I did. Go ahead.
I was just going to say a tip for taking responsibility is just writing things down without going into the cycle of self-loathing and despair,
Because that's where you stay stuck after a breakup.
Mhm.
And I've seen it and it's heartbreaking. And I promise everyone listening, you really can recognize where you want to improve without going down this rabbit hole. But it
Yeah.
really does take intention, because you can feel like you don't have control over it. And just before you know it, just be in a dark hole.
I was actually, to pinpoint that, I was talking to someone recently about that, and with depression, because that's where it really is leading to. If you're
Yeah.
sad now, and you keep going down that hole, it's just going to lead well into depression. And I've certainly had that, at severe levels in my life when I was younger with some stuff. And I was telling someone, I'm like, there just came a moment where I kind of just knew. It was like, well, either it's going to get real scary, real bad, even worse than this is now. Like, you can make that choice to like let yourself keep going this direction, or you can literally pull yourself up and fight back against your own depression every day and walk yourself out of this fire. And I always use the fire analogy because fire is whatever it is in your life. It's that breakup, it's the depression, it's whatever the big, scary, hot, flaming mess is. And it's big. It's too big to walk around. And a lot of people want to try to walk around because they're like, I don't want to get burned. It's too scary. It's too hot. I don't want to go in the fire. But the fastest way to get through the fire slash depression slash breakup slash sat, all of the things, is to walk through it. And the faster you walk through it and do that work, taking responsibility, having compassion for yourself, working on yourself, the faster you will get through the fire. And then that's it. You don't have to go back to the fire. It's gone. It's in the past. It is done.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, when, that happened for me, it was a very clear decision in my own brain. No one gave me that ultimatum. I did. I was like, I'm not going to let myself die from this. And that was truly what went through my head. It was the word die. It was pretty bad. And I was like, no, I'm just not. I'm going to be stronger than this. Even at my worst, at my weakest, I'm going to move through it. And I did.
Yes, I love that. But that was so much intention on
Very
your part
much.
and very purposeful, thinking about your future. And it's bringing to mind, again, going back to Australia, and for me with my work situation, it was just the biggest mess I've almost been in my life. And when I got out of it, I remember telling a friend one day, she was just remarking on how well I was doing a couple weeks later. And I said, I can either focus on everything that I did wrong and all the mistakes I made and all of the bad decisions that led up to this, and, the times that I, ignored things that made me uncomfortable, or I'll go into a depression. Or I can focus on everything that they did wrong and that they did that were so hurtful and horrible and made me crazy every single day. If I do that, the anger is going to eat me alive. And so all I can do now is, process what I went through and why I did what I did, and think about the future, because I can't dwell on either thing.
Yeah.
It took a lot, but again, I had to intentionally say, I'm not going to go self-loathe, and this is why. And I'm not going to just focus on my resentment towards them, and this is why.
So sorry to interrupt. One last little tip. This is a very easy tip. Whenever you start thinking about whatever it is, the self-loathing, the ex, literally imagine a huge red stop sign when that happens, and your brain will start to rewire, and it will literally stop at every time that you think of them, because you're imagining that red stop sign, and it will stop the rewiring from happening. It's very effective. And easy.
Visualization, everyone. And we're going to talk about mindfulness, but that's a great mindfulness tip. So real quickly, the second R is remorse. And according to the Very Well Mind article, when you're doing something wrong, it's completely normal, even healthy, to feel guilty about it. These feelings of guilt and remorse can serve as a springboard to positive behavior change if you let them. So again, if you're listening to this and you do feel remorse, congratulations, like you're not a sociopath for lack of a better
not
word.
a narcissist.
Yes.
Yay.
Right. So it's good, but use it. So some tips for showing remorse to yourself, or working through remorse rather. So a journaling exercise that I love, I kind of alluded to it earlier. What I will do differently in the future is, and Jackie's tip, write a letter to your ex, but don't send it. Put it in your journal, flush it down the toilet, bury it. I had a client do that recently, or burn it. And I like to start, if you're really dealing with either not having closure or feelings of remorse, what I like to suggest to start the letter is, what I never got to tell you is, and just let it out. And you will be surprised, even though they are not going to see it, you will feel a lot of relief.
You will. That's perfect. Oh, I want to do that. Just, and by the way, this doesn't always mean it's an ex of yours. It could be a family member that you're no longer talking to as well. Mm-hmm. So that's a great way to start it. I love that prompt.
And of course, working with a counselor or taking other action to process what you've done, and have someone help you move past it. Because I know sometimes these devastating breakups, people feel like it's something they've never gone through before. So that's why coaches and therapists can be really useful.
Absolutely. The third one is restoration. And Very Well Mind says, just as you might not forgive someone else until they've made it up to you in some way, forgiving yourself is more likely to stick when you feel like you've earned it.
So, Jackie, what do you think are some ways that we can, quote unquote, restore things that don't necessarily involve our ex?
Oh gosh. Well, if you're leaving a relationship, especially if your lives were really entwined with each other, I think restoring what your daily life looks like and your routine is really crucial. And that's like the first thing you should start doing, is creating a new routine, because that, I don't know why that always gets me the most. I miss the smallest stuff, like the tiniest things. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to make my routine mine so that that I'm not relying on someone else to make me happy, but also because it's special and you're showing self-love to yourself. That's all about self-love and self-care, is really getting your routine set for you so that you can live your days every single day in a normal way, differently than you did with your ex.
That is such a good tip. Thank you. I love talking about routines on X-Files and the many ways that they go to recover from your breakup. And that's a really good one. That builds a lot of self-trust, having a brand new routine. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And like, even if you want to get kind of cutesy with it, like I love making tea in the morning. I have a whole like morning routine, and like buy yourself a new tea kettle or a new mug for your coffee, and make like, the special coffee instead of like the yucky coffee. Like, make it special for you. And then it's something you look forward to, that, like you said, you can trust yourself. Like, oh, I'm always going to provide this lovely routine for myself every day in whatever way it is.
Yep. I read in bed every single morning, and
I love
it's wonderful. I feel like a princess from the moment I open my eyes.
So some other ways to restore trust in yourself would be, this is huge and I cannot enforce this even more, but go slow in your dating, guys. Please don't jump into the next relationship like your life depends on it, because so many people do. And then they are just working their old relationship issues out with a new person, and it's exhausting. So go slow for you. Take the time for you to just heal and grow and learn. Mindfulness and learning to let go of negative self-talk is huge. We've talked a lot about that. We want to set and keep goals. Again, that's part of routine.
Yep.
We
Even
just want to
small ones.
right, and we want to accept that the breakup is over and let your ex move on. Like that's the ultimate, at the end of the grieving process, it's acceptance. The faster we can get to acceptance, the happier we're going to be. And does that mean it's going to happen overnight? No. Can we force it? No, not really. But we're going to do our best every day to be mindful, to have routines, to do what we need to do to take care of ourselves and love ourselves enough to realize that the love that maybe we're not getting from that ex, we're giving ourselves now. And like what's magical that's happened in my life quickly is that the more I really learned how to love myself the way that I deserve to be loved, the more I'm able to recognize what that would look like in a partner. And you hear women say this all the time. You'll hear men say this too, but women especially were like, if you can't give me more than what I'm giving myself, I don't need you. I
Yes.
don't. I'm happy. I'm not sad. I'm not like, oh my God, what am I going to do? You're a happy camper because you're really feeling loved and you make this beautiful life for yourself so that it's like perfectly primed for someone who's really ready to give you more than that and be a complement to what you've already created.
Thank you so much. That's great. And if you do that, your self-trust will soar and you will, I think, continue to forgive yourself for little mistakes that you make and certainly forgive yourself for this past thing. Because as we said earlier, you've earned it and you've kept your commitments. So the last R is renewal. This is a great one. I'm a fan of the renewal process. Back to the blog post. Forgiving yourself often requires finding a way to learn from the experience and grow as a person. To do this, you need to understand why you behaved the way you did and why you feel guilty. What steps can you take to prevent the same behaviors again in the future? Yes, you might have messed up, but it was a learning experience that can help you make better choices in the future. And like I said earlier, part of my renewal process after my last Australian relationship was deciding to in order to fully solidify the commitment I was making to stopping this pattern that I had of fast relationships, was to stay single and then to stay single and then to stay single. And the longer I did it, the more that I forgave myself, the more I trusted myself, and the more I knew that it was in my past. And I have, as I've started dating again, experienced that I'm much, much, much different in dating. So other ways to work through the renewal process. Rituals. Are you a ritual person, Jackie?
I don't know. I want to know your definition of what rituals are.
Okay. Yeah, great. So to me, a ritual is some symbolic act that you plan out in order to call in something or to release something.
Oh, for sure. I've definitely got a couple of rituals then.
Yes. So, for instance, I meditate each morning and make an intention. I have had anger rituals from my breakups where I planned it out ahead of time. And these are the actions I'm going to take. And this is the result I'm, intending to create. That was kind of our inarticulate, but, and so rituals, we have an episode on rituals. I forget what number it was, but rituals are perfect for this stage. And as you are creating it, which this is a fun part of how I work with people, as you are creating a breakup ritual, always remember two things. What I'm letting go of is, and what I'm calling in is. And I think if you're struggling with forgiving yourself, that setting a time to do a ritual and saying, after this ritual, I have to either begin or finish or more fully solidify my self-forgiveness and then and do it. Taking a vacation, setting a theme. The theme for your vacation could be forgiving myself, or any number of things that you can do that will help you get to or move through the renewal stage.
I love that. I love it.
So what else do you have to say about this? That was a fun and very juicy and full episode, Jackie. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. No, it's good. I'm just always happy to like share whatever wisdom I have for others that, are either just going through breakups for the first time or, just having issues. Maybe it was a breakup unlike another breakup that, you're just like, I want to make sense of this. I just want to understand why I'm still suffering or, all the questions, so many questions after a breakup, and we question ourselves so much. But I think it's always good to hear people like you and I talk about what it looks like on the other side and how to get there, and that life does move on and you get to be happy and happier than you were. And,
Oh, yeah.
You get to find the right person when that time is, right.
Yeah.
So,
and in the meantime, you can have a very fulfilling life so that you make more positive choices when you do start meeting people. And, Jackie and I have both been single for a long time or been through periods of singleness that were long. And, I definitely think we are also some of the most confident, magnetic women who I'm aware of. So it
obviously,
definitely works.
Well, yeah.
I wanted to let everyone know, keep your eye on the X-Files feed. I will be dropping a bonus track of affirmations for self-forgiveness. It should be underneath this episode in whatever feed you use. And I would also like to encourage everyone, if you haven't done a 5-star rating and review yet, that is the best way to let me know what the podcast means to you. I absolutely love getting everyone's DMs. Don't get me wrong. You can keep that going. But you can also, share your appreciation there as well. And that means you get to pay it forward and help more people find X-Files.
Yay.
So with that, Jackie, we will see you again for another episode, and we'll see everyone here next Tuesday for more X-Files fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to X-Files podcast. I sincerely hope that you found today's episode inspirational or useful. I would love to support you on your healing journey. All you have to do is send me a message through the X-Files Instagram account, and I will personally be in touch to get you started. Remember, if you are struggling with a broken heart, your feelings are temporary. I am sending you so much love and luck for the week ahead. You've got this.